Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2480 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. In today's Wisdom Nugget, we'll continue our exploration of Psalm 27. This psalm is a powerful declaration of trust in God, especially when life feels overwhelming and uncertain. Last time, we walked through verses 1 through 6, where David expressed his confidence in God's protection and presence. Today, we'll be focusing on Psalm 27, verses 7 through 14 from the New Living Translation. In this section, David moves from a confident proclamation to a heartfelt prayer. We'll see him calling out to God in a moment of need, seeking assurance and guidance. Even as David asked for God's help, his trust in the Lord remains firm. Let's read this passage in its entirety before we dive into the details. Psalm chapter 27, verses 7 through 14. Hear me when I pray, O Lord. Be merciful and answer me. My heart has heard you say, come and talk with me. And my heart responds, Lord, I am coming. Do not turn your back on me. Do not reject your servant in anger. You have always been my helper. Don't leave me now. Don't abandon me, O God of my salvation. Even if my father and mother abandon me, the Lord will hold me close. Teach me how to live, O Lord. Lead me along the right path, for my enemies are waiting for me. Do not let me fall into their hands, for they accuse me of things I've never done. With every breath they threaten me with violence. Yet I am confident I will see the Lord's goodness while I'm here in the land of the living. Wait patiently for the Lord. Be brave and courageous. Yes, wait patiently for the Lord. In the opening verses of this section, David shifts from his earlier confidence in God's protection to a direct and earnest plea for help. He begins with verse 7 saying, Hear me as I pray, O Lord. Be merciful and answer me. This is a deeply personal cry. David is not reciting a formal prayer or offering a distant request. He is pouring out his heart to God. He knows that he needs God's mercy and intervention, and he is asking for an answer. What is significant here is the relationship David has with God. He doesn't approach God timidly or with uncertainty. Instead, he calls out, knowing that God hears him. David is confident that God will respond to his cry. In verse 8, David expresses a beautiful truth of his relationship with the Lord. My heart has heard you say, come and talk with me. And my heart responds, Lord, I am coming. This verse reveals an intimacy between David and God. God has extended an invitation to David, saying, come and talk with me, and David responds with a willing heart. What an amazing privilege it is to know that the Creator of the universe invites us to come and speak with Him. God desires a relationship with us where we can come freely into His presence, sharing our hearts, our struggles, and our desires. David's response is one of eagerness. Lord, I am coming. This should also be our response, an eagerness to spend time with God in prayer, to seek His presence and to pour out our hearts before Him. In verse 9, David's plea becomes even more urgent. Do not turn your back on me. Do not reject your servant in anger. You have always been my helper. Don't leave me now. Don't abandon me, O God of my salvation. Here we see David's vulnerability. He is aware of his own frailty and his desperate need for God. He recognizes that without God's help, he cannot stand. Even though David is confident in God's character, he still feels the weight of his situation. This reminds us that expressing our fears and concerns to God is okay. Even when we trust in Him, we can still be honest about our emotions and ask for reassurance. David's word reminds us that we experience the depth of God's faithfulness in these moments of vulnerability. In verse 10, David makes a profound statement about God's faithfulness. Even if my father and mother abandon me, the Lord will hold me close. The imagery here is striking. For many of us, our parents are the people who we expect to support us and care for us unconditionally. Yet David acknowledges that even the closest human relationships can fail. But even in the worst-case scenarios, if the father and mother were to abandon him, David knows that God will never let him go. The Lord will hold him close. This is such a powerful assurance. People may fail us, relationships may falter, but God's love is steadfast. He will never abandon us, even when everyone else does. In moments of loneliness, betrayal, or when we feel like no one else understands, we can trust that God is always with us. He holds us close, offering comfort and security that no human relationship can provide. In verses 11 and 12, David shifts his focus from his personal need for God's presence to the request for guidance and protection. Teach me how to live, O Lord. Lead me along the right path, for my enemies are waiting for me. Do not let me fall into their hands, for they accuse me of things I've never done. With every breath they threaten me with violence. David recognizes that he cannot navigate life on his own. He needs God's wisdom and direction to live righteously, especially when faced with the threat of enemies. His request for guidance, teach me how to live, shows his humility and dependence on God. David is not asking for a shortcut or an escape from his problems. He is asking for wisdom to walk the right path, even amid difficulty. He also prays for deliverance from his enemies, who are falsely accusing him and threatening him with violence. David's plea for protection is rooted in the reality of the dangers that he faces. But once again, his confidence lies not in his own ability to defend himself, but God's power to protect him. This is a reminder for us as well. In the challenges and conflicts that we face, we need God's guidance to live according to His will. We may be tempted to take matters into our own hands, but like David, we should seek God's direction and trust in His protection. Verse 13 is a turning point in this section of the Psalms. After expressing his fears and concern, David declares, "Yet I am confident I will see the Lord's goodness while I am here in the land of the living." Despite the trials and the threats surrounding him, David remains confident in God's goodness. He's not just hoping for future deliverance in the afterlife. He believes that he will experience God's goodness in this life, in the land of the living. This statement is a powerful declaration of faith. David knows that even amid difficulties, God's goodness will prevail. This is an essential reminder for all of us. It's easy for us to lose sight of God's goodness when going through tough times, but like David, we will remain confident that God is working for our good, even when we can't see it in the moment. Our hope is not just for eternity, but also for God's faithfulness in the here and now. Finally, in verse 14, David offers an exhortation to himself and to all of us. Wait patiently for the Lord. Be brave and courageous. Yes, wait patiently for the Lord. David knows that waiting for God is not always easy. There are times when we want answers right away, when we want deliverance immediately. But David encourages us to be patient and to trust in God's timing. Waiting on the Lord requires bravery and courage because it means trusting Him even when the path ahead is unclear. The word wait here doesn't imply a passive inaction. It is an active trust, a faith that keeps on holding to God's promises even when difficult circumstances occur. It's about being brave enough to trust that God's plans are good. And His timing is perfect. As we wait on the Lord, His presence strengthens us and our faith grows deeper. Waiting is not wasted. It's a time of preparation, refining, and drawing close to God. In Psalm chapter 27, verses 7 through 14, is a powerful reminder of the depth of God's faithfulness and the trust that we can place in Him. David's heartfelt cry for help, his confidence in God's goodness, and his call to wait patiently on the Lord speaks to the realities that we all face in life. We too can approach God with honesty and vulnerability, knowing that He hears us and we will answer in His perfect time. We can rest in the assurance that even if the world around us fails, God will hold us close. And as we wait on Him, we can be brave and courageous, trusting in His unfailing love and guidance. Thank you for joining me today on this trek through Psalm 27. As we continue our journey together, let's take David's words to heart, seeking God's presence, trusting in His goodness, and waiting on Him with courage. Until the next time, keep seeking God's wisdom, keep trusting in the Lord, keep walking the path of faith, and continue your journey on wisdom in God's Word, lighting your path. And if you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and to come along with us tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, creating a legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, your mentor, and most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through the Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. And as we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.